Welcome to the Internet, your gateway to adventure.
If you're upset that I am breaking the law by posting this, do not comment on it. Your thoughts have already been spoken by numerous people who can't understand why I'm posting this and what's going on. If you're interested in contacting a judge, court clerk, or any other member of the court regarding these posts, good luck, because you have not and will not learn my location. This is not about me breaking the court's rules. This is about me seeking help with a situation I do not know how to handle. So I posted the last one, and a few people got freaked out about the fact that I'm on a jury posting about it online. The fact is, I'm not looking for opinions on the case. I am impartial when it comes to the trial of John Willis. All that information is just background. What's really concerning me and causing me to post this are the things that happen outside of the courtroom since this trial started. So please, if you have a moral objection to what I'm doing, keep it to yourself. Also, the Willis case is happening in a relatively small town and isn't getting any mainstream coverage. Hell, it's barely getting any local coverage. So yeah, let's get to it. I had to go out to the store Saturday afternoon, and when I opened my car door, I had that black dust stuff on my hands, like it was underneath my car door handle. I still had and still have no idea as of writing or this post. Anyways, on my way to the store, I heard something shuffling around in my back seat. It freaked the shit out of me, naturally, but I was driving on the freeway, so I couldn't exactly pull over and stop just then. I looked in my rear view and saw nothing. Just to be sure, I quickly looked behind me, and I'm not really sure what I saw. There was something like hiding under a black cloak. I let out a yell, and when I looked forward, I almost rear-ended the car in front of me. I collected myself and looked back again, and all that was there was a bunch of black dust. I made it to the store and back with no further problems, although I did check my back seat every 10 seconds on the way back from the store. I got home and unlocked my front door, again getting black dust on my hands. I, of course, figured this must mean that whatever was going on was either happening in my house currently, or it was from what happened the night before. I got in my house and nothing seemed strange. I went about the rest of my day. Nothing happened until night came. I was sitting in the living room on my laptop, and I felt a breeze. It was an extremely cold breeze, though, like I had just opened a walk-in freezer, but even colder. I hadn't opened any windows. It is November, and I didn't have my air conditioning on. Again, it is November. I got up to see where the draft was coming from. I walked down my hallway and saw that window in the bathroom was open. There was, of course, black dust on the windowsill. I figured this meant something was about to happen. I went back and sat on the couch, ignoring my computer and focusing completely on the room in front of me. I stayed there, on high alert, until I fell asleep. When I did wake up on Sunday morning, still sitting on the couch, I felt like something was different, but I couldn't place it. I got up and cautiously walked throughout my house, trying to find something that was out of the ordinary. I couldn't find anything, but I just had the overwhelming feeling that something had been done. Most of Sunday went by okay, and then the sun set. Right at dusk, I heard a banging coming from my attic. Now, I'm the kind of person that will do everything I can to justify something before beginning to look for answers in the paranormal/supernatural. I reasoned that it was some kind of animal that had gotten into my attic somehow. I heard scurrying around all above me, like a squirrel running back and forth. Then suddenly, a loud boom came from the area above me. Then I heard sliding, like someone was dragging their very large feet across the attic floor. I called the police because I'm not stupid, and they came to check out my attic, which of course was empty. They did ask me what the black dust all over my floor in my attic was, to which I had no answer. The police left, and both of the officers gave me their cards in case I had any further problems. At about 11 p.m., shortly after the police left, I heard a crash and something slide in my hallway. Before even looking, I knew it was the drop-down ladder to my attic. Something had either pulled it down from below or pushed it down from above. Or, I thought, the police hadn't locked it in place when they exited the attic, so it had fallen. I walked towards the fallen ladder, and suddenly, as if someone had flipped a switch, an extremely bright light shone from the attic and into the hallway. I stopped dead in my tracks and waited for something else to happen. The light seemed to get brighter and brighter until it was almost pure white, to the point it was hurting my eyes. Then, as quickly as it had started, it stopped, with what sounded like the light bulb in the attic exploding. I heard the familiar sliding sound go from the door to the other side of the attic above me. I ran and shut the drop ladder and made sure the lock was properly set. This was the last issue I had on Sunday. Today, I reported for court at 9 a.m. Today was the day for witnesses' testimony and cross-examination. Witness for defense number 1, Rebecca Damone. Rebecca Damone is John's next-door neighbor. Her initial statement was gathered during canvassing of the area, which she presented for the court. She mentioned she was in her backyard doing some gardening before it got too dark, and at one point, around 7:45, John walked into his backyard, where they exchanged a wave. He walked back into his house without doing anything outside. Shortly after that, she heard one scream, and one scream only. She said it was a short yelp, not like someone was getting hurt, but like someone had jumped around the corner and scared them. During cross-examination, the prosecutor asked her if she was sure that she heard a scream. If it was, in fact, so short of an instance, she said yes, and that it absolutely came from the house. The defense then asked Rebecca to disclose her relationship with John, if any, and what she thought of him as a neighbor. Rebecca said they'd been neighbors since he moved into the house next to her, and that he always seemed like a friendly man. He and his wife introduced themselves upon moving next door to her, and said that they always looked seemingly happy. She did say that one night a few weeks before the murder, John came to her house and asked her if she'd heard anything in her attic lately. When she said no, he just stood up, staring into her house until she closed the door. That was the only issue she'd ever have with him, and she would regard him as a fine neighbor. Witness for defense number 2, James Bradley. The extent of James Bradley's testimony was the information that John had called him multiple times regarding strange things going on in his home. Feelings that he was being watched, things out of place, something paranormal. The prosecution basically just grilled him on being a paranormal expert and essentially tried to paint the whole profession as a joke. Witness for prosecution number 1, Amanda Clement. Amanda was a friend of John's sister, Erica. She informed the court that Erica had recently been proposed to and was considering moving out of state as her now fiancé's new job was transferring him. She had been with Amanda getting coffee just before she went to John's house and was ultimately murdered. Her plan was to tell John the news. Witness for the prosecution number 2, Anthony Minow. Anthony Tony Minow was quite the witness the prosecution brought forth. He was, apparently, the paramour of Jessica Willis, as they had been carrying on a candle-stained relationship for nearly 2 years. In Tony's opinion, John had found out about it and murdered her. The prosecution corroborated this by presenting text messages from the day before the murder, in which Jessica discussed the fact that her husband might know about the affair. It was all pretty damning evidence. The defense cross-examined Anthony, and in all honesty, kind of made fools of themselves. They basically had him restate what he'd already said, and then sort of flat out asked him why the court should believe he himself didn't do it. As if he was somehow a scorned lover who couldn't get over the fact that she wouldn't leave her husband, even though there was no basis for such an assumption. That's when I noticed the defense attorney acting strange. He was like mildly twitching every few seconds and had a look of fear in his eyes I'd never seen. Now that I think about it, he looked like that entire day. At the time, this made me think of Jackie. I looked over at her. She was just 2 seats away from me, and immediately noticed bags under her eyes. I looked at the others, and about half of my fellow jurors looked as if they hadn't slept since the trial began. When we were excused for the day, around 3 p.m., I gathered the ones that looked particularly disheveled, and we all stepped into the room that held the vending machines and discussed our individual problems. Here are the few that really stood out. Juror number 3, Mike. Mike was sleeping in bed with his wife and woke up when he heard something loud, exaggerated breathing. He turned over and saw his wife was sound asleep and that the breathing wasn't coming from her. He then got worried, hoping that it wasn't their dog. He got up to look at the foot of his bed where the dog slept every night. As he was sitting up, he stopped and saw something standing in the corner. They were facing him, but in the dark they couldn't make anything out. He said whoever it was very tall and looked as if he was wearing a cloak. The person in the corner then slowly dropped to their knees and began crawling towards the bed. Mike jumped up out of bed and turned on the bedroom light and saw no one there, only a black dust streak where the thing had been crawling. He called the police, who came and took his statement and looked around. His wife said she hadn't seen or heard anything and was convinced her husband was just dreaming, although unable to explain the black dust on the floor. Juror number 11, Trinette. Trinette lives at home with her 2 sons, with a boyfriend who is a truck driver, so he's not home most nights. On Friday night, her 2 sons ran to her in the middle of the night. They share a room, saying someone crawled out of their closet and into the living room. Trinette said she got up, grabbed the knife she keeps in the drawer of her bedside. She told her sons to stay in her room and close the door, and only open it if she came back and said their safe word. She didn't mention what that was. Trinette then crept through her house, the upper unit of a duplex, turning on the lights as she went, and she was able to make sure no one else was at her home. What she did find, however, was a trail of black dust leading from the closet in her kids' room up to her front door, which she said was now unlocked. She mentioned that she didn't trust her downstairs neighbors, so she never, ever leaves her door unlocked. She opened the attic, and the trail continued into the stairwell, and just stopping underneath the opening to the attic. Juror number 9, Lysandra. Lysandra was cooking dinner for her husband, waiting for him to get home from work, when the entire kitchen, which was sweltering due to both the oven and the stovetop protruding heat, went cold. She said it happened in a split second. At first, she thought she just had the chills, but then they didn't go away. Then she heard a sliding noise in her hallway, heading away from her. She said she froze in fear for a moment, then grabbed the largest knife she had in her kitchen and peeked around the corner. Something draped in black was on the floor of her hallway, sliding down the hall. She began tearing up when she said it was trailed by the black dust and it stopped underneath her attic. She quickly ran to her living room to call the police, and by that time she looked again and the thing was gone, with no trail past below the attic entrance. The police showed up, looked around her house and in her attic, but found nothing. There was another account, but that was just more of the same. Obviously, the common things here are something black lurking around the attics of homes and that black dust. Everyone is pretty scared, naturally. One of them said the police, detectives, and medical workers will be on standby tomorrow, so hopefully we can get some answers as to what the black dust is that was found at John Willis's house the night of the murder. I'll report back after court tomorrow with what I found out.